The blizzard hit Manhattan like a thief in the night, stealing the breath from the city and stranding me in a coffee shop on the corner of Bleecker and McDougal. I clutched my sketchbook, heart pounding as the windows rattled under the onslaught, when the door flew open and he stumbled in. Jordan, soaked to the bone, his blonde curls plastered to his forehead, eyes wild with the kind of desperation that makes strangers into lifelines. In that frozen instant, as our gazes collided across the steam-filled room, I knew this storm wasn't just about the weather. It was the unraveling of everything I'd buried deep inside, and he was the spark that would set it all ablaze. I was Alex Rivera, 28, and adrift in the holiday haze of New York, the kind of guy who designed album covers for indie band by day and nursed a secret ache by night. My family back in Queens had long since stopped pretending my phase would pass. Thanksgiving had been a polite email from Mom, a curt busy with work from Dad, and radio silence from my sister Elena, who once promised we'd conquer the world together. So here I was, alone in the village, sketching forgotten faces in a cafe that smelled of cinnamon and regret, when Jordan collapsed into the chair across from me, like fate had scripted it. "Mind if I?" he gasped, nodding at the empty seat, his Seattle accent cutting through the howl outside like a warm blade. We didn't talk much at first. The power flickered. The barista announced last call for the brave, and soon it was just us, two islands in a sea of abandoned mugs. He was 30, he said, visiting cousins upstate for Christmas. His first time back east since his own family imploded 2 years ago over irreconcilable differences, code for his dad walking out when Jordan came out. I shared a sip of my cooling latte, my voice barely above the wind. Mine's more like a slow freeze. Parents love me, but they love their version of me more. His laugh was soft, unexpected like sunlight piercing clouds, and in that sound, something cracked open in me, a fissure where light could finally slip through. By the time the snowplows cleared a path hours later, the streets were a wide-out wonderland, and Jordan's phone buzzed with a canceled train. "Cousins are snowed in too," he muttered, scrolling futilely. I should have let him go, waved him off to some overpriced hotel, but the words tumbled out. "Crash at my place. It's a walk-up in Soho, nothing fancy, but it's dry." His blue eyes searched mine, weighing the risk, the relief, and then he nodded, a small smile tugging at his lips. "Lead the way, sketchbook stranger." My apartment was a third-floor chaos of half-finished canvases and vinyl records stacked like forgotten promises, the radiator clanging like an old friend heartbeat. Jordan peeled off his parka, revealing a faded Radiohead tee that hugged his shoulders just right, and I busied myself with towels and tea to hide the flush creeping up my neck. We settled on the couch with mugs of chamomile, the storm raging outside like it was auditioning for our backstory. "So, Alex," he said, stretching out his legs, "what's a guy like you doing sketching strangers in a blizzard?" I shrugged, flipping open my book to a page of angular faces, all longing etched in pencil strokes. "Chasing ghosts, I guess. People who look like they know what they're after." He leaned in, tracing a finger along the edge of one drawing. A man with eyes like shattered glass. "This one's got your sadness," he murmured, and damn if that didn't hit like a gut punch. I pulled back, heart hammering, but he didn't push. Instead, he launched into a story about his last holiday in Seattle, how he'd spiked the eggnog at his aunt's party and ended up slow dancing with the family golden retriever to Jingle Bells. I laughed. Real, belly-deep laughter that shook loose the ice in my chest, and before I knew it, I was countering with the time Elena and I rigged the Thanksgiving turkey with fireworks, nearly burning down Grandma's garage. The hours blurred, stories weaving like tinsel, until the first gray light of dawn crept in, painting his face in soft hues that made my throat tighten. That morning, as we shoveled our way to the corner bodega for breakfast burritos, the city awoke in reluctant splendor. Jordan bumped my shoulder, snowflakes catching in his lashes. "Thank for the harbor, Alex. Feels like I dodged more than a storm last night." I wanted to say something profound, something that captured the electric hum between us, but all I managed was, "Anytime. Holidays are for strays, right?" We ate on my fire escape, legs dangling over the alley, watching delivery trucks churn through the slush. It was ordinary, unscripted, and utterly terrifying, because for the first time in years, solitude felt like a choice I didn't have to make alone. The days that followed unfolded like a dream scripted by some benevolent chaos god. Jordan's train was delayed indefinitely, his cousins buried under a foot of snow in the Hudson Valley, so he stayed. We decorated my sad little tree with dollar store ornaments and strings of fairy lights pilfered from a street vendor, laughing as we tangled ourselves in tinsel like idiots. "You're a disaster," he teased, his breath warm against my ear as he untangled a strand from my hair. And I shot back, says the guy who just superglued his thumb to a snow globe. But beneath the banter, there was a current, a pull that made every glance linger too long, every brush of fingers send sparks up my arm. One evening, as we wandered Washington Square Park under a canopy of bare branches laced with lights, the air thick with roasted chestnuts and carolers' voices, Jordan grew quiet. We paused by the arch, its stone glowing ethereal in the dusk, and he stared out at the skaters on the rink, their laughter echoing like distant bells. "Back home," he said finally, voice low. Holidays were this pressure cooker. Dad preaching about traditional values while Mom baked pies to drown out the fights. When I told them, "God, Alex, it was like I poisoned the whole damn season." His words hung heavy, and I slipped my hand into his glove, squeezing until he met my eyes. My folks didn't explode. I confessed, the vulnerability tasting like ash. They just faded. Elena tried to bridge it, but she's got her own life now. Left me feeling like the punchline to a joke no one's telling. We stood there, hands linked in the cold, the world spinning on without us. A street musician struck up, "Have yourself a merry little Christmas," and Jordan pulled me closer, our foreheads touching. "What if this year," he whispered, "we rewrite the script? No ghosts, just us." My heart stuttered, the romance of it all crashing over me like the snow piling at our feet. I nodded, words failing, and in that silence, something bloomed, fragile, fierce, and utterly real. But fate, that cruel curator, had other plans. The next afternoon, as we huddled in my kitchen experimenting with gingerbread men that looked more like abstract art, Jordan's phone shattered the idol. It was his cousin Lila, voice frantic. "Jordan, it's Dad. He's here. Flew in from Seattle unannounced. Insists on a family dinner tonight. You have to come. He's asking for you." The color drained from Jordan's face, his dough-smeared hands freezing mid-pinch. I watched the storm gather in his eyes, the old wounds reopening like paper cuts from a forgotten letter. "I can't," he muttered, but Lila pressed, her words a barrage through the speaker. "He's trying, Jordan. For once, he's trying to understand." The apartment felt smaller then, the air thick with unspoken dread. Jordan paced, running hands through his hair until it stood in wild spikes. "He hasn't spoken to me since the letter," he said, voice cracking. "Called me a disappointment, said I'd ruined the family name. And now, a dinner? It's a trap, Alex. Or worse, a pity play." I crossed the room, gripping his shoulders, forcing him to still. "Then don't go alone," I said, the words bolder than I felt. "Let me be your +1. Backup singer in this messed-up holiday musical." He searched my face, doubt warring with gratitude, and finally, a ghost of a smile. "You're insane. But yeah, God, yeah." We arrived at Lila's brownstone in Brooklyn that evening, the snow falling in fat, forgiving flakes that softened the edges of the world. The house glowed from within, strings of lights framing windows alive with shadows, family, fraught, and familiar. Jordan's hand trembled in mine as we climbed the steps, and I squeezed back, a silent vow. "I'm here." The door swung open to Lila's hug, her dark curls a whirlwind, but then there he was, Mr. Harlan, Jordan's father, tall and stern in a cashmere sweater, his face a map of lines etched by regret or resentment. It was hard to tell. "Son," he said, voice gruff, extending a hand that Jordan ignored for a beat too long before clasping it stiffly. Dinner was a minefield disguised as turkey and cranberry sauce. Seated around the oak table laden with candles and crystal, the air hummed with forced cheer. Lila's husband cracking dad jokes, the kids chasing peas under chairs. But the undercurrent was electric, Jordan's knee bouncing against mine under the tablecloth. Harlan cleared his throat midway through the meal, fork poised over his plate. "Jordan, I've been reflecting. Your mother and I, we handled things poorly. The church, the expectations, it blinded us." The table fell silent, forks hovering, breaths held. Jordan's jaw tightened, his blue eyes steel. "Reflections don't erase 2 years of silence, Dad. Or the voicemail calling me a phase you'd outgrow." The words landed like blows, and Harlan flinched, color rising in his cheeks. I was angry, scared. "But seeing you now," his gaze flicked to me, appraising, and I felt exposed. an interloper in their fractured tableau. "Who's this?" Jordan straightened, his hand finding mine atop the table, bold and unyielding. "Alex, my partner for the holidays." The lie, no, the truth, hung there, and the room exhaled collectively. Lila beamed, the kids giggled, but Harlan's face twisted, a storm of emotions brewing. "Partner," he repeated, tasting the word. "I see." The rest of the meal blurred into tense pleasantries, but as coffee circulated, Harlan pulled Jordan aside into the study, door clicking shut like a guillotine. I lingered in the hall, heart in my throat, catching fragments. "Proud of the man you've become. Forgive." Jordan's voice rose, sharp. "Pride isn't a speech, Dad. It's showing up." When he emerged, eyes red-rimmed, but chin high, he grabbed my coat. "Let's get out of here." We fled into the night, the Brooklyn streets a labyrinth of snow and street lamps, our breaths clouding in sync. Halfway to the subway, Jordan stopped under a wrought iron gate strung with holly, turning to me with a fierceness that stole my air. "You didn't have to do that," he said, voice raw. "Stand there like you belonged." I stepped closer, the world narrowing to his face, inches away. "I do belong. With you." And then, in the hush of falling snow, he kissed me. Slow, searching, a dam breaking after years of drought. His lips were cold, then warm, tasting of wine and want, and I melted into it, hands framing his jaw as if he might vanish. Back in Soho, we tumbled through my door, shedding coats and inhibitions like winter skins. The kiss deepened on the rug, a tangle of limbs and whispered confessions, his fingers tracing the scars I hid under shirts, literal and not. "I've been running from this," I admitted against his neck, pulse thundering. "From feeling this much." Jordan pulled back, eyes shining. "Then stop running. Stay with me." We made love by firelight, bodies learning each other in the flicker of flames, laughter bubbling up between gasps, silence wrapping us like a blanket afterward. In his arms, the holidays transformed, not a season of loss, but of fierce, found belonging. Yet dawn brought shadows. My phone lit up with Elena's name, a text chain exploding. "Mom's in hospital, slipped on ice at the holiday market. Queen's General come now." Panic clawed my gut as I shook Jordan awake, words spilling in a rush. "Family emergency. I have to go." He bolted up, already pulling on jeans. "I'm coming." No arguments. The cab ride to Queens was a blur of slushy streets and my unraveling fears, Jordan's hand steady in mine, his thumbs stroking circles like a mantra. The hospital smelled of antiseptic and despair, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead like angry hornets. Mom lay in a curtained bay, ankle sprained but spirits bruised, Dad hovering like a ghost at her bedside. Elena paced, her fierce energy a bomb and a blade. "Alex," she breathed, pulling me into a hug that cracked my resolve. But then eyes turned, Dad's narrowing on Jordan, the stranger in our midst. "Who's this?" he asked, voice edged with that old suspicion. I straightened, echoing Jordan's bravery from nights before. "Jordan, my boyfriend. He's family now." The word detonated softly. Mom's eyes widened, then softened with a watery smile. "Well then, pull up a chair, dear. Tell us about yourself." Dad grumbled something about sudden developments, but Elena shot him a look that could curdle milk, and he subsided. As nurses bustled and coffee soured in styrofoam, Jordan wove tales of Seattle rains and software glitches, drawing laughs from Mom, a reluctant nod from Dad. In the quiet lulls, his fingers laced with mine under the thin blanket, a secret anchor. By evening, Mom was discharged, propped on crutches in our childhood home, a row house strung with faded lights, the air thick with pine and pot roast. Dad thawed incrementally over dinner, grilling Jordan on everything from Mariners baseball to his line of work, but there was curiosity beneath the gruffness, a bridge tentatively laid. Elena cornered me in the kitchen later, elbow deep in dishwater. "He's good for you, Alex. Lights you up like Hanukkah candles." I hugged her fierce, tears pricking. "Took a blizzard to find him. And you don't vanish again, okay?" She nodded, promises sealed in soap suds. Christmas Eve found us back in Manhattan, Jordan and I slipping away to the High Line for a midnight stroll, the elevated park a ribbon of lights above the Hudson. Snow had paused, stars peeking through cloud veils, and we walked arm in arm, scars entwined. "Your families." Intense, he said, chuckling. But real. Mine's still a work in progress. I stopped, turning him to face the glittering skyline. Progress is everything. And us? We're the best kind. Messy, miraculous. He kissed me then, deep and sure, the city our witness. But the holidays have a way of unspooling secrets, and New Year's loomed with its reckonings. Jordan's phone rang 2 days before, Harlan's voice tentative, "Come home, son. For real this time. Bring your Alex." It was an olive branch, jagged-edged, and Jordan wavered, fear flickering. That night, as we lay tangled in sheets, he voiced the doubt gnawing. What if it's all talk? What if I drag you into my wreckage? I traced his collarbone, voice steady. Then we rebuild. Together. Forever starts somewhere, Jordan. Why not here between the laughs and the quiet? The flight to Seattle was turbulent, mirroring the churn in our chests, but we landed into arms open wider than expected. Harlan at the gate. No fanfare, just a clap on Jordan's back and a gruff "good to meet you, proper Alex." His childhood home was a craftsman bungalow on Queen and Hill, views of the Sound like a painting come alive, evergreen branches heavy with rain. Christmas dinner was subdued at first. Jordan's mom, petite and silver-haired, hovering with apologies wrapped in hugs. Aunts and uncles eyeing us with polite curiosity. But as stories flowed with the Pinot, barriers crumbled. Harlan sharing his own hidden regrets, a college crush buried under decades of denial. New Year's Eve, we escaped to Pike Place for the countdown, market stalls aglow with lanterns, the air salty and alive. As midnight struck, confetti raining and cheers erupting, Jordan dropped to one knee amid the throng. Not with a ring, but with words raw and radiant. "Alex, you're my harbor in every storm. Marry me? Not today, but someday. Build this forever with me." Tears blurred the fireworks. My yes a whisper lost in the roar, sealed with a kiss that tasted of salt and stars. Back in New York come January, the snow melting into slushy promises. We stood on my fire escape, city humming below. Elena called with news of Mom's recovery. Lila texted photos of Harlan attempting, and failing, at gingerbread. Jordan's hand in mine felt like destiny's signature. We'd spent the holidays together, navigating tempests of family and fear, laughter echoing through silences that once screamed loneliness. And in those spaces between, the unguarded glances, the shared breaths, we'd found it. Not just love, but home. A forever forged in the fire of what could have broken us, but instead made us whole.